You're listening to The Invisible Addiction, a podcast investigating problem gambling.
And I stuck on this massive 12 team accumulator. The odds were 128,000 to 1. And I knew I needed this game to win 63k. The full-time whistle goes and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm checking the bet slip and multiple times, waiting for it to stay. You know, it goes pending and it's still pending.
Oh no.
And I was thinking, oh God, they like found out I'm 16 or something's happened. And it goes to 1 and the 63,916 or whatever it was appears in my account.
Shit. Okay, so joining us on the other end of the line today is Lewis, who has very kindly given up his time today to talk to us about his gambling addiction. So Lewis, how are you doing? How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. It's very kind of you to give up your time and for us to hear a bit more about your story. So obviously we're going to talk about your very unique football accumulator bet story today. But before we do, would you like to maybe just spend a couple of minutes maybe talking about your background and experience?
Yeah, sure. So obviously I'm Lewis, 24, and I've pretty much spent my whole professional career in marketing. After college, doing media and film, realised that was a big interest of mine. So kind of pursued it in a different way, went to university, which we'll get onto later. Found that uni wasn't for me, and then ended up coming into an apprenticeship, liking the work environment in an agency. And then I've kind of ended up moving between different jobs, an aviation paint company, again doing marketing. And now I'm currently, and have been for 2 years, doing a non-profit marketing role, which has taught me a lot about charities and being frugal, and it's given me a different mindset. And it kind of clashes with the values that gambling has. And then kind of outside of what I do for work, I'm quite into my tennis, quite into my football. I'm basically quite sporty. And then kind of a nerd when it comes to films, really. Big Star Wars fan, big Marvel fan, won't hide it. And then obviously in the free time, or when it's been the pandemic, a lot of it's been spent on the PlayStation. So I think it's the new thing to do, I think, when all this lockdown's happening. So that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah, good stuff. How did you find lockdown anyway?
Initially it was really tricky, because that kind of goes into the start of my story, or what kind of jolted me to get that final push to stop gambling, really. But as it come on, I think I kind of started to accept the situation for it is. I think it's a really tough situation for anyone. But I kind of grateful for the position. I had a job, and especially at the start of the pandemic. And then since then, I've just kind of made the most of it, really, and just tried to learn a few different skills, kind of try and look at things at glass half full. So it's been okay. It's not ideal, is it? But you just got to go with it. Otherwise it beats you up.
Yeah. I was going to say, I definitely think I've gone pretty batshit crazy, but then I think I'm pretty crazy anyway, to be honest with you. So
it's just, maybe I just hide it. But it's, I think I've managed to stay sane for the majority of it. We'll see when it comes out, what I'm like. Yeah.
That's good. And obviously we know each other from Now We Win, the workouts.
That's right.
With Ed Stoner. So that was quite a welcome addition. I don't know for you, but for me it was a nice welcome addition.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have found something better. And I mean, I literally, when I say I found it, it was a case of being on Twitter one day, and I think someone had liked one of his posts, or one of the Now We Win posts. And I thought, you know what? I'm trying to get over this addiction. And the fact that I could combine that and do a workout for free as well at the time was it felt really, really good. And then obviously we connected, and everyone there has just been really warm and welcoming. I don't think anyone's there's no one there that's hostile, trying to tell you to live a certain way or try and change it completely. They're just, it just feels like a good catch up with mates you've kind of known for ages, because you all relate to this singular experience of gambling. You all have different sort of things, different stories to tell from it, but we all do suffer from the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's solace, or there's something nice about that. It sounds so backwards, but it's this
no, it's true,
comforting thing to know, okay, you're not alone. Those feelings were rational.
Mm.
So that's been really good as well. But yeah, I agree. It's been such a good thing to add to your arsenal and like really combat what we're trying to do.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think I've never been to GA, but I imagine that was, you know, like Now We Win is maybe a bit similar. And obviously I've spoken to people that have been to GA, and they say that they find it very therapeutic, that, you know, that comforting value that just knowing other people have been through the same experience.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried GA as well once, and it just wasn't for me. But you know, it's finding what works. I think for me, and I'm not speaking for you, but Now We Win works. It speaks to me more. So it's been really helpful. So that's been another thing to do in the pandemic. You haven't got a lot else to do. It was perfect. It was like another thing to fill the calendar. The very bare calendar. You had something on a Thursday evening to do.
Yeah, I liked it when Gareth was like, "Yeah, this is the only time I've actually spoken to anyone like all week."
Exactly.
You know, on the call. Yeah. It's good. And I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, like, it's quite nice because everyone sort of seems. Obviously, we've all got the gambling addiction thing in common, but everyone else sort of. What I've found is like we all tend to like sport.
I don't know whether that stems from gambling or not as well. I don't know. I think some people. I mean, for me, I love sport anyway. Growing up, it was always like brothers did it. The interesting thing, I'll probably speak on it later, but my older brothers just don't gamble at all, or if they do, it's always been £1 at the Grand National. But they've always been sporty, into football and that obviously introduced me into that world. And then obviously I've extended that by the gambling. But yeah, I think all of us have quite similar interests when you actually, like, if you wrote everything down that we all had, like, there'd be a lot of lines between them.
Yeah.
I think I think we all kind of relate very well. So I think that helps the groups. And I mean, I'm not going to make his head too big, but Ed's done well putting it all together.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, he definitely, no, seriously, he definitely has. He, clever guy. And I just think it's a brilliant idea. And yeah, I just like, I'm blowing smoke up the proverbial. To be fair, I think I mention him in every single podcast. I'm always like, now we win.
Yeah.
So
you could always become an affiliate or something.
So Lewis, look, you mentioned your brothers there. Obviously, that they're not into their gambling and stuff. So I don't know. I feel like it's a sensible point to sort of dive back at the start of your, I don't know, story. So you've got, are you the youngest, and are they a lot old, are they all older than you, or? Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got two older brothers, and 10 years and 13 years older.
Okay.
So there's quite the gap between me and the middle, I guess, brother and the older brother.
Yeah.
But I think, like I say, they never were exposed to it, I don't think. And especially they didn't grow up in the age of the online betting. When they were sort of becoming 18, it just wasn't there. Or if it was quite, you needed the latest phone to run it. So I think for me, it's just all a new experience, and I couldn't either speak to them about it because there was no common ground to be found. It was just like, why are you doing it? Why aren't you doing the £1 bet? It was more like, well, no, I can't explain this rational thought. It's just, I'm just doing these massive ones. But yeah, so yeah, that's with my brothers really.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Would you like to, I don't know, maybe just sort of kick us off with your gambling addiction story in terms of, like, I don't know, how did you get into betting? How did it start?
Yeah. So it's quite a long story. And kind of, like you say, quite unique, is that I was just 16. I was never exposed to gambling in my life. My parents even touched it. I mean, my mum went to bingo a few times a week, a few times in the month, barely, nothing, no exposure to it. And they had gone away one weekend, and I went on to Betfred. Not sure why. I think it was to do with actually watching a football match and seeing a Betfred TV advertisement come up, and I thought, oh, okay, let me just see. And I think it came up with free bet. So made an account in my dad's name, signed up, got free £5 bet. Didn't have to be used all up at once. So went on there, sticking on these 50p, draw, win, draw, like, returns 400 million, whatever. And I got down to my last 50p on a Saturday evening. I remember it's clear as day. I couldn't sleep, not because of the gambling, just couldn't sleep. And I stuck on this massive 12, I think it was 12 team accumulator, and left it. So it returned, the odds were 128,000 to 1. So went to bed, didn't think anything of it. As a Sunday teenager, I didn't wake up till about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I thought, do you know what? I'll go and check each result. So I checked on the results. I think it was Southampton-Fulham was one of the games I remember vividly. And I think Southampton, what's his name now? Forgetting the guy's name. He used to
Jose Fonte, yeah.
That's it. He scored in like the last minute, I think, to make it 2-2. And for some random reason, I'd made it a draw in my accumulator. So it was like another tick. And that was like half one kickoff, tick. And then Celtic won. And then it went through and through. And I had about 8 draws in there. And it got to the last game, and it was Hanover against Dortmund, I think. And I put it down as a draw. And my parents still weren't home from their trip away. And I knew I needed this game to win 63k. So as I was shaking and screaming, I also had a Twitter account called Vision of Skulls, where I put on the betting slip and said, "Oh my God, guys, I'm one goal away from winning this. I needed Hanover to draw." And so so absolutely shaking. The tweet was getting shared, and so much more than I kind of expected. And so I was watching the game in one hand, and then I was seeing my Twitter kind of blow up. And at the time, my Twitter had like 2,000 followers. It was kind of like a football Twitter. It was like sharing like opinions about football.
Yeah, Vision of Skulls. That
account.
Yeah.
And then all places, or all names, I should say, Maram Diouf, the guy that used to play for Stoke, played for United, I think in the reserves, played for everyone under the sun. Played for Hanover and scored the winner, scored my winner, but made it a draw.
Oh my goodness.
It was 86 minutes. So basically it still couldn't happen. But then, you think, come on, it's going to end a draw now. Destiny. It runs out. The full-time whistle goes. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm checking the betting slip and multiple times, waiting for it to stay. It goes pending, and it's still pending.
Oh no.
And I was thinking, oh God, they like found out I'm 16 or something's happened. And it goes to 1, and the 63,916 or whatever it was appears in my account. Shit. And I'm just shaking like crazy. I don't tell my parents yet because I, don't know what to say. And so the tweet starts getting shared a lot more. And at this point, more and more people are starting to it's scary how people started to dig into my past or like to try and find out sort of background information about you.
Oh.
And a couple of people started theorising, oh, he's 16, oh God, he can't collect his money, he can't do this, can't do that. And at the same time, Betfred are getting in contact with you because it's such a big win, and like they want to make it like a PR moment, basically.
Yeah.
And they're like basically messaging, I think it was the account itself, and saying, congratulations, like well done on winning this. Like, do you have a phone number you can contact us on, etc., to confirm the winnings and that. And my parents come back in. And my mum was furious. Like, how dare you do this in my dad's name? How all of that.
Did she? Sorry, Lewis, to interrupt. Did she know the amount that was won at that point, or do you know what I mean? Or was she just?
They were both in shock when I told them literally how much I won, because I remember walking downstairs and being like, I've just won 63,000 quid. And like my dad running upstairs, and my mum being like cross and anxious and being like, hold on, is it a scam sort of thing?
Yeah.
And I can understand that, because you think, well, naively, I might just put it on a wrong account. And so my mum's quite furious. My dad's like, basically, oh my God, this is really good. Like, you've won this money. This is incredible. And and then I give Betfred my dad's number, because obviously it's in my dad's account. And I just said to them, no, they called up and said to my dad, oh, okay, yeah, are you the owner, like, etc., like his, just to confirm all the details, blah, blah, blah. And whilst this is going on, the Twitter thing's getting shared. Aaron Lennon, I think, messaged me and said, oh, congratulations. All of these, like, a few, like, B-list celebrities. I can't remember, like, not, the ones that have got the tick on Twitter, but they're not, like, they are of importance to someone, but not to me or
Actually,
to.
it reminds
No.
me. Sorry to interrupt. I remember I went to
That's all right.
university. I went to University of Leeds, and Aaron Lennon famously bought the whole bar, a shot of vodka. So yeah,
Really,
yeah,
really. Maybe if
yeah,
I was 18 at the time, he would
yeah,
have got
yeah,
me some.
yeah.
Maybe if I was
Madness.
16, so I couldn't really. Yeah,
Yeah, it was the box in Headingley. If you're ever up there,
yeah.
so,
I've never been to Leeds. I need to make it a night out
oh
when it's
mate,
all over. When it's
great
all,
night,
yeah.
great night. Yeah,
Um. So at that point, yeah. So we confirmed the money, and knew it would be in the account in like 3 to 5 days. I think it was even quicker because they were desperate to get the good word. It's for the betting company. I think it was more like goodwill. Get the word out.
yeah,
Like, we need to get the money to him so he can start shouting about it. But yeah, so the Twitter account was blowing up. A few people were trying to still get the money to get it voided. People trying to say, "Oh, he's 16. We know it for sure." So I messaged my brothers, and they were like, "Oh, we've seen what's happened on Twitter," and they were like, "Get rid of it. Delete it. Delete your Twitter." So I did that
mm,
just because I was worried that something would come retrospectively and lose the money. And
yeah,
so that account got the money. And long story short, divvied the money up. So like I sent quite a substantial chunk to my mum and dad, to my brothers, purchased my first car. God
wow,
bless the VW Polo. Phone, nothing crazy really. But then people at college the next day knew that I'd won that money, or quite a few were. So then I started seeing a few more people come up to me and say, "Oh God, you've won that money, haven't you?" Who I've never spoken to before, basically just trying to latch on.
yeah,
And I just kind of ignored it and just let it kind of, got good hazing for it, I guess, or good teasing for it. I didn't mind that. And that was how I won that amount of money at that time. So that was a crazy series of events. And then after that, for 2 years, so I won the money in October 20,
2012. Sorry, I missed.
2012.
Yeah, Mr.
That's all right.
Research here. Sorry.
It's
Yeah.
good that someone knows. So yeah, so October. So yeah, so from then October 12 to me turning 18 in January 2014, I didn't even look at gambling.
Okay.
Didn't think about it at
We,
all.
we at this point were you just like, right, job done, in and out. I've made my thousands of pounds, as it were. Were
Yeah,
you?
it wasn't even. It was just like
Yeah.
it's kind of like I was still thinking logically at the time.
Mm,
I was still thinking that was easy, but I've got money. I can't legally do it without someone else's account, so I didn't even think about opening an account in anyone's name because I thought it's not worth the hassle. Yeah, I got the money. I was doing college. I was busy. I sort of had I think a common theme I'll probably say is I had a structure at that point in my life. I wasn't suffering from depression at the time. I wasn't feeling and like any anxiety. I was in my first year of college thinking, cool. So I've got this money, got this car. I know what courses I'm doing. Like things just were quite simple. And I never really thought about, okay, I need to fill a gap in my life or need to fill this void of things because I had kind of everything I needed to have. So from that point on, so then from October 2012 till January 2014, I didn't have it for the long. I definitely can't remember any fleeting moments of I need to get a bet on. And then interestingly, in about December time, I remember not getting the urge, but realizing just how close I was to be able to do it legally, and how I still had a lot left, if I'm being honest, because I probably gave away and spent probably a third of it. So I still had, as you can imagine, I still had quite a lot. And some of this had been put into ISAs, savings, and some of it was put in like I think like different cards. I think my dad had a few, like 5,000. It was like divvied up into different pots. And then when it came round to me being 18, I just started immediately. That first morning of my birthday, I opened up an account with Bet365. And I didn't spend the money that I bought or had earn in that big win, I was just spending money that I got from me working at like newsagent, and then at the time I think I was working at M&S as a
Right.
barista.
Right.
Very, low pay, but whatever I was using, that was all it was going on at one point when I was about 18. Because, and obviously I look back now, it's because I thought I needed to, or how easy that win would be able to replicate. Maybe not on that scale, but I thought how easy that was to do with 50p, that doing it with 10 quid will be like so much easier to do, which is so wrong to think with your logical side of your brain. But the irrational side of me was like, so, it's fine. That's easy.
It makes sense. By the way, I was going to say, I mean, it makes sense. Totally makes sense. Sorry to cut you off there, but no. I mean, I mean, it's one of those things for me. It's always those you hear of like lottery winners or like yourself, these big winners, and for me, it's always like, wow, I don't think that would ever happen to me. I mean, I can't imagine what it would have been like for maybe, I don't know, for your confidence or your ego, I suppose, in a way, because you've gone viral, haven't you? Basically, at that point, on the Twitter feed.
Yeah.
I suppose in a way, are you, you've got confidence on your side. I mean, in a way, what was it like at college? Were you not like a minor celeb? Do you know what I mean? I suppose you probably had a bit of status, a bit of credibility in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to give a few, like, not shout outs, but friends that kind of like sort of teased me and said, "Oh, can you pay for this?" But they wouldn't make me pay for it. But then they never really bothered to share it too much outside of almost this social circle.
Yeah, sure.
They kind of kept it to themselves, which helped me because I've never been uber confident. So I've never been wanting to be a leader of a friend group or the first one to stand up or volunteer. So it was kind of good that the people that I was surrounded with who knew what had happened weren't necessarily the ones that were kind of leaking it or telling everyone as if it was their story.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really want that. Because winning that amount of money is crazy. And winning it at 16 is doubly crazy. But at the time, I didn't have anything else kind of, I guess you could say, complicated in my life, both mentally and physically. So it never felt like a hindrance or a problem. But then moving on, when you become, like, when I was like 18, I remember being in my second year at college, obviously looking towards uni and still having a structure, but kind of being disillusioned with college, kind of ready for it to end, ready for it to just, I just wanted to move on to uni. I just wanted to start then like a new chapter. I wasn't really engaged in classes and stuff. So therefore, in that time, I mean, I can't be specific, but I was gambling a lot more than I should be. And that was hindering my social out. I wasn't going out. I wasn't going, and even if it was just going to a restaurant, I was just saying no because I needed that extra 15 quid to put on. So even at a time when you're most social, when everyone is available, whereas like now you look at like everyone's working or everyone's volunteering, and then they're not, when they're not volunteering, they've got like their other half, or the lives at that time, you're almost at your most social. And I was kind of squandering that because I was spending all my time engulfed in gambling to fill a void of or trying to get a semblance of structure again, because I wasn't being part of up to that point, my life was kind of like rigid, and I liked it because I was school, college will lead to uni, will lead to a job, done. And then when I got to second year of college and you disregard the gambling, I was just going and thinking, I don't really want to be doing this. I'm kind of just trudging along. I feel a bit lost, but if I can just push through and get to uni, I'll be absolutely fine, and I won't feel this way ever again. So that was my motivation, but also I was filling up pockets of feeling lost with this thing that I knew from when I was 16 could be a source of happiness. All I'd known of gambling was happiness. At 16. So to go back to it was like this fail safe, like, okay, cool, it works, it must work. I mean, and ultimately it wasn't.
No, I mean, there's a lot made about, you know, people that have had problems with gambling, like ourselves and stuff. It's like that first winning bet, you know. I mean,
Yeah,
in my case, it was like 50p, and I won, 20p, and I won £7 20 on the roulette wheel in the bookies.
yeah,
But my goodness, 50p, and you win £63,000. I mean, it's just unheard of. It's just so unique.
yeah. That's. I mean, the odds should tell you everything. You know what I mean? When something is 128,000 to one, you just that is a blip. That is. But it's trying to tell your 16-year-old self that it is a blip.
Yeah.
Or even your 18-year-old. Sorry, I should say. That was always the trickiest thing that I couldn't solve.
No, no. So then, so if we pick the story back up with obviously you're that, you've then turned 18, you're then gambling now. Are you
Yes.
are you gambling on a mobile phone? What types of betting are you doing? Is it sports betting? What sort of, yeah, what could you tell us a bit
Yeah.
more about that?
Yeah. Sure. Um, the majority at that time was actually desktop. Because of what I didn't mention, but when I won the money, I actually got myself a kind of gaming PC. Didn't
Mm.
really play games, but sort of wanted to have this high speed two grand kit
I
that
mean,
I'd never been able
who
to get for.
wouldn't? Yeah.
Exactly. It's just like why'd I
Yeah.
deprive myself of this little treat? But I'd have that up with Bet365. Um, Getting home from college, getting loads up in 10 seconds, straight on it, boom, and I can start betting away. And I was doing a bit on mobile, and I started to migrate more and more as the
Mm.
sort of months progressed. But to start with, it was like, I mean, obviously our audience will kind of understand, and you'll understand, but like when you go onto Bet365 and you go onto InPlay, and I don't know whether they've changed it now, I haven't been on in about a year, I reckon, is like you have the left hand side has all of these games, all of them that you can pick from, and then it got every sport, so it goes on forever. And then it's like the dashboard is on your like in the middle, and then you've got like on your right hand side you've got like the live streams and everything. And it's like it must be that same hit, because I didn't do, and I should admit now, I've never done casino apart from like a stag do,
Mm.
or like fruities. They've never stood out to me. Horse racing, never done.
Mm.
But that same feeling of like a casino and like the match up three, the jackpot thing,
Yeah.
it feels like that when you're on the Bet365. It just feels like boom, 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 boom. And it's obviously made like that to put you off, or not put you off, sorry, but to stimulate you and keep you going and keep you staying there. And it's just like, it was almost like the ideal breeding ground for my gambling addiction, because I could sit there after college without a structure or feeling a bit lost, and kind of get ironically lost in the gambling, because it was so easy and so comforting to look at, and that interface, because I can still remember it vividly now. So it's definitely, so yeah, it was more desktop at that time, but I was
Yeah.
definitely still mobile. And like if I was on the way on the bus, I'd be just transferring that account over to your mobile. It's all synced up, so you'd just be looking and going, okay, right, oh god, I've got to make that up before I get back, or I've got to make that up before I get to lunchtime. Crazy
Yeah.
things. And then you end up depositing just to convince yourself that you can win back that initial £10 you put in, which is now turned into 100 quid's worth of accumulated deposits.
Yeah. It's
And then you're trying to juggle your college work and your job. So then
yeah.
I won't waffle on too long, but the like M&S, I remember going around, like the amount of times I must have said I needed to go to the loo, they must have thought I had a problem, because I was literally going around the toilet just to go and check a result, or quickly go, oh, how's it doing? Can I cash out? Can I do something about this? Can I
Oh,
stick on another one? And it's like, now I look back and it's like, I feel regretful, because it's like I didn't spend as much time with my colleagues. I could have made more friends.
mm,
And it's hard not to reminisce and be like, shit, I should have done something like that.
mm.
But you live and you learn. I do that less now, because I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was more desktop to start with, definitely.
Yeah. Sorry, lots of ideas to spawn there, just from what you've said. I'm a bit lost for words. I don't know where to take us, Lewis. But
Yeah, I go on for too long, don't I?
no. Oh, mate,
Too much of a job.
no, not at all. It's such a hard sort of, it's like a job interview sometimes, isn't it? You're like, I should probably just stop talking now. But no, I want you to keep talking, because my problem is knowing when to sort of, when to ask a question, when to, if I'm interrupting, and, I'll listen back to this and think, oh, I've interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But
okay.
yeah, I mean, online apps, it's all flooding back for me. I mean, for me, it's so funny, isn't it? The mindset of like, well, I've got to chase my losses of my £10 bet. Like in my case, it was always like later on after the roulette, it became blackjack, and it was this mindset of like, right, I've got 100 quid. I'm going to start with 100, or I've got 50 quid. Can I get it? Can I get it to 100 quid? Basically, was, and I would always round it up. So if I was at 95 and hovering about that, I was like, well, I'm not going to leave until I get to 100. And of course, actually, the positive side would have been, well, you've just made 45 quid on top of £50. Like, that's great. You've doubled your money almost. Like, leave the table. Like, go, leave. And the amount of times I would then bet to get to the £100 and then end up losing all my money because of, and then you just make stupid decisions. And when you're talking about
that,
I hate it.
It's strange how strategic you get about it all, because I would do that where it needs to be a clean zero before I deposit or withdraw it out. And talking of withdrawals of the money, and I'm not sure if they've changed it now, so I don't want to kind of say this is gospel truth now. But there's been a few occasions where I've deposited, I think one time I'd actually won quite a lot, again, just by sort of rolling on big amounts, like a grand bet, and then sticking on next, however one, like another £2,000. But I would then withdraw that money. But I think it was Bet365. They do the little holding withdrawal, where it makes you think about it for 3 days, or I think it sticks in there for, I'm not even sure if it's 3 days. I think it's shorter than that. But in a gambler's life, even if it's 24 hours, that's way too much time for that money to be sat there, because I would leave in like another £2,000 and be betting with that, lose that, and think, should I wait? No, and no hesitation, boom, back into the account, and I'd cancel that withdrawal. And, logically you think, hold on, you'd be up, but I don't know, 1,800 at that point if you just let that money come back into your account 3 to 5 days. So I was stung a few times with that, definitely.
Oh God, yeah. Again, more bad memories.
The reverse withdrawal. That's it. Yeah,
that's it. That's it. Reverse withdrawal. I mean, the amount of again, I'm just nodding because I'm just like, yeah. In fact, I remember last year, so 2019. My last bet was November 2019, but in the summer of that year, I was online playing blackjack. The whole like online casino experience now that you can do.
Oh God, yeah.
Where it's like you literally feel like it's a person actually dealing, and you're at the table. And I remember I think I'd reversed a withdrawal, I think a few hundred quid, and then because I built this balance up basically with my blackjack play, and I built this balance up, I don't know, to about 800 quid, which was incredible, really, from 50, I think it was like 50 quid, 100 quid or whatever.
That's not bad, yeah.
Yeah, at the time I'm like, oh, I'm going to become a professional blackjack player. Literally my mindset was just ridiculous. And then reversed to withdraw, and then I just lost a lot. I mean, it was just like, it was not, that was
yeah. So you went up from being up 750 to being down, 50 quid after, and it's not just the money, it's that time.
Yeah.
Whatever time you're doing it. I mean, I remember doing that. I think I did that casino weird, and that is weird in a concept. The fact that you're just watching this person deal virtually to you. It's like, and I remember doing that like 2:00 in the morning, and that's even worse because you're not sleeping and you're watching this. You got no volume on because you don't want anyone in the house to hear what you're doing, and it's just it's such a out of body experience, and it's hard to explain to anyone that doesn't gamble just how weird it is. Because and I remember doing that once and being, what the f am I doing right now? let me get back to sports because I know what I'm doing. I can always win at sports. Spoiler alert, you can't. But you think, okay, that works.
Was that your thing then? Obviously, was it sports then? Because for me, it was casinos.
Tennis majority, yeah. Tennis, well, sports was always just football or tennis. And tennis, I always applied an analytical thing to it. But if I kind of run the clock back quickly, because when I eventually ended up at uni in Sheffield, Hallam. So with uni, I was thinking that was a fresh start. And I kind of treated it as a next step on my journey, if you will. So after the second year of college, I felt a bit weak, a bit helpless, was gambling a lot. I can't remember whether I came out to my parents about needing help because I kind of kept bailing myself out with the money that I'd won previously. So I never really saw the financial implications as much as I would. So I got to uni, spent probably the first month of freshers actually not gambling because I was like enjoying myself, kind of disguising myself in the kind of arena you're in. It's fun. Everyone's getting to know each other, all of that. And then I think probably a month, something would have triggered something that would have caused me to be a bit more homesick, a bit more sort of reminiscing about what I'm missing at home or feeling, all of those feelings that everyone does. And then kind of spending a bit more time in my halls and just in my room. And I'd load up my computer, the same computer that I'd done the gambling at home that I brought with me at uni, and ended up gambling a lot. But actually, this time I was winning a lot and actually withdrawing some of it, thousands. And at one point I had £10,000 and I was thinking, this is fantastic. I've paid for a year of uni right now because it's $9,000 and I think it still is. I thought, this is fantastic. So I withdrew like $2,500, got myself a MacBook, like pre-ordered the new one, I think it was. Withdrew a bit more. Then proceeded to lose that 10,000. Well, not that 10,000, but it was like 5,000. I thought, okay, it's fine. I can build it back up to the 10,000. That conversation we're having about thinking you can chase it back to that amount. Losing with that, then doing the reverse withdrawal, losing the $2,000 or coming back into my account, losing that. And then, so this was over probably a couple more months. And I haven't really told anyone about this, but it got to one evening on a Sunday night. And I had my MacBook had arrived. I hadn't set it up because I was too busy with gambling. And I'd lost everything. And I'd also spent my uni, I've forgotten the name of it now. You might have to help me here. To do with like the amount you get.
Oh, like what your maintenance
grant, like
loan.
a grant, a maintenance loan. That's it. I'd lost that gambling. And I'd also lost any money to go get food and that. So whatever I had in my fridge. So I looked at my fridge, looked around the halls, felt very emotional, called up my parents. I was still feeling homesick at this time. And I called them up and I said, I really can't do this anymore. They picked me up the next day, cleared up my room that was an absolute state because I just was so lethargic and just was literally gambling and then sleeping a few hours and gambling and sleeping. Wasn't doing much of the course at that point. They saw that I got a MacBook. They were like, okay, that's a bit weird. And then came home. Didn't mention about the gambling at the time, but needed to sell the MacBook to then pay back the maintenance thing. So that covered that up. So again, this will be a common theme, but I didn't need to mention it to anyone at that point because from 16 to 18, didn't need to mention it to anyone because I got bailed out. When I was 18, didn't need to, got bailed out. When I got out of uni, again, I didn't need to mention it to anyone. So the accountability ended with me, or like who was dependent on me, just me. And if I could bail myself out, there was no issue, or the way I saw it. And so yeah, got home, and for the next 3 months, I was without a job, without a uni course in mind, without a direction. So all of these, almost my personal nightmare had come true, where didn't have money, didn't have a job, didn't have any of this, and I was just thinking, where am I going? Managed to find a temp job, but the gambling just continued. So I asked my dad to take out a bit of money from an ISA. And then I said, okay, it's fine. I'm just going to try and invest it in like stocks. I think I gave a bullshit reason for basically wanting to take that money out. Because once you take it out, it's kind of hard to put back in, or it takes a while, and it's a longer process than just a regular savings account. And yeah, spending all that on gambling, like basically taking away the pillars that had kind of bailed me out. And then I was bailing myself out more and more with these little loans that had been put away for me when I was 16. And yeah, so then, people kept asking, oh, why'd you leave uni? And I kept saying, it's because I don't really like the course, and I felt homesick, and I wasn't really enjoying myself. And those things are true. I just think they were emphasized by the fact that what I was going through was first signs of feeling really depressed, firstly feelings of the gambling addiction really taking a hold of me, morphed with these feelings of feeling homesick, and that causing me to kind of reach that crossroads where I just felt so like I literally couldn't hold it in anymore, and needed to let my parents know, okay, can you come and pick me up? I don't want to do this. And then so then that was kind of the uni bit. And it was at that point, it wasn't even a wake up call.
No. I mean, it's quite hard to listen to that. It's the effects it has, and what it can lead to, and how it can manifest itself. And so at this point, did anyone know about the extent of your addiction, or was it still kind of secret?
It was secret. I mean, if you probably interviewed my parents now, they probably would have said, we knew you were having some problems with it at that time. But I never explicitly at that point had come out and said, okay, I'm having a problem. It was only once all of that money had gone, and that money went quite quick, very, very, very quick, because there was a few accounts locked away which I needed to ask my dad's permission for, and there was some that I could just go in and access. So I lost, all of it, and it was only at the point where I lost all of it, and then I lost whatever wages it was that month, was then that emission time, that first emission of me saying, I've lost all my money, I can't buy anything, I can't go out, can you help with petrol? Which is such a step. It feels so far away, or from where I'm at right now, but it was kind of, I can still remember it so vividly, looking at my Polo and seeing the petrol sign, even going below the little spike, and thinking, how am I even going to get home? Like, I need this to get me home. I've got nothing in my account right now if this goes. And almost trying to avoid that gambling's the issue, or you shouldn't do this. Just thinking, okay, it's fine, I'll just go again next month and we'll get the money back. But once that first wage is lost, or once I lost those wages after I'd lost everything from that big win at 16, was then that opportunity forced upon me to go speak to my parents and say, I do need a bit of additional support. Can you help? And so basically from that point on, I think the biggest regret from both sides, me and my parents, is that we didn't tackle it quickly early on. So we kind of treated it more of like, I had the issue. Do you mind going speaking to Gamblers Anonymous? Do you mind sending an email to someone to say you've got a problem? Do you mind just giving them a quick... And because it was put like that, as an 18-year-old, I just didn't want to do it. I'd say, okay, yeah, I've done it, and that'll be it. And they wouldn't chase me about it, and I wouldn't do anything about it. So when it kind of like, when I went 18, 19, or turned 19, I was just not addressing the issue at all. I just wasn't. We were having small conversations, and this would happen. So like that happened then, and then I think, I don't know, 6 months, 7 months later, it happened again where I needed to speak to them. But even in the months where I didn't speak to them, I was barely surviving. Like, when I say surviving, I mean, I still have a house. I still had somewhere to live, still had a car, still had everything to live on, but I was barely getting by because the gambling was like either bad or severely bad to the point where I needed to speak to them. So it was just a rocky road from like 18. And also I wasn't addressing my mental health problems. I just wasn't. So it was just all a kind of a mess from that moment of sort of second year of college to kind of coming out of uni those 3 months after.
Yeah, sure. What effects do you think it was having on your mental health then? Was it causing, I don't know, like, was it, depression or like feeling of failure? I mean, I'm just bringing up some stuff that I felt, stress, all the lying, obviously the secretiveness.
Yeah, the lying, a massive one.
Yeah.
That's a big one for me, because I'd be coming up. I mean, I can look back in Facebook messages now and see messages I've sent, or when I've been asked to come out and I've said no, like some rubbish reason. And I know deep down at that point I wasn't, because I was just trying to gamble with the last fiver I had in my account. And I was getting depressed at that fact that I couldn't go out. And then additionally getting depressed once the money had run out in gambling, because you know this, but when you're depressed, or okay, actually no, I'm just speaking for myself, but you become depressed or you feel really down, then you might gamble then in that moment I don't feel depressed because I'm in this almost like zone. And then I come out of it and I think, God, I've lost the money, so I feel shit from that, from an actual like financial standpoint. And then I feel equally shit because I couldn't go and do that thing that I want to do with friends. And then down because it's like, well, I can't gamble anymore, and gambling's my escape. So how am I going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And then having to cover that up again with those layers of lies for the next 2 weeks until the next payday. It was like this. I was just killing off any ability to be out there, to be present in these moments, these years where, like I say, we said earlier, everyone's out there. 18-year-olds are just the most social people. Well, maybe not now with TikTok and that, but like you're out there, aren't you? At that age, you're just more you got more time, just spare time. And I was just giving myself less of a chance to do that. So that was getting me down. It was like a paradox. You just couldn't escape it. It was like, if you don't gamble, then you're going to feel crappy because you feel like you need that to fill up this big void of kind of letting everyone down, going to uni and not finishing it through. What are you going to do with your path now?
Yeah.
And then if you do it, then you're losing the money and you're feeling crap from that, and you can't go and socialize. So I was kind of put myself in a lose-lose.
Yeah.
But yeah, the best way I describe it is like the addiction felt like a slow but deadly one. Slow but deadly. It was obviously eating me at the age of 16 and 17, but I wasn't doing it, but it was almost building up in my body, if you will. And then when it kind of came to 18 and I could actually be free to do it, it was like, right, got a couple of years to catch up. Let's do it. And then by then it's conditioned into my head that was what I needed to do. So yeah, they were tricky years.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I can relate to what you said, the whole paradox and stuff, and how it's, I don't know. Yeah. It's how it's weird. I mean, how it would manifest in my case, it was like, I started to gamble because, like yourself, it was like, I need to make the money. I haven't got any money in my account at all. Like, so my mindset was like, I need money. The way I'm going to get that is by gambling. So I have to gamble. And then I would just spend hours upon hours upon hours gambling. Obviously online on a laptop towards the end. For me, it was always casinos at the start, but that was maybe when I was kind of heavy gambling. But when it was really a problem was online on computers, and be up all hours of the night. And then I was smoking. So I was kind of, I've always classed myself as a fit and healthy person, but I was smoking weed. I was drinking as well. Of course, then if you go into bed at 3-4 o'clock at night, you're getting crap sleep. So I was waking up in the morning, getting awful sleep. that in itself is obviously tiredness, and then you're getting stressed, and then you've just got all these layers of like, well, I haven't got any money. I keep lying. Oh, right. Where are you going during the day? It's because I was self-employed. Where are you going during the day? Oh, I'm just going to Reading to do some shopping. That was bollocks.
Yeah, bollock. Yeah,
Casinos. It was just
yeah.
this massive cycle, and you're just like downward spiral, and it's oh yeah.
It's interesting you mention about smoking and weed and drink, because I actually didn't do any of that because I wanted to put every pound I had towards gambling. I
Yeah.
saw if I even went out for a pint, that's a fiver or a £4 that I could have spent on an accumulator that could have won me 40 quid, that could have got me back that 100 quid that I lost last week.
Yeah.
That was my brain the whole time. So it never even crossed. It's interesting you mentioned that was almost like part of your, I guess, stress reliever. Like, it relieves stress, doesn't it? I think smoking, people, smokers do say that it relieves stress. So that was your out. But I was getting stressed at the idea, if I went and did anything social, that I would be spending money on things that I could have spent on the bets. Why would I? My brain just couldn't wrap that idea. Why would you want to go and spend money on other things that don't give you the same high and will waste money?
So, Lewis, can you maybe tell us a little bit more about the months after the university episode, and then maybe how things progressed in the sort of the years after that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, coming out of uni, then the 3 months or so before I found a temp job. Then the temp job kind of gave me a bit of direction. But the thing is, over those next kind of couple of years, probably till 21, kind of eking into sort of age of 22, was a time where it felt like quite a blur, where I was kind of going through the motions, I guess, in my career. I was kind of going into a new job. I managed to find a marketing role, and was kind of was feeling kind of confident, like, I found an apprenticeship, felt good, but then was gambling on the side and wasn't giving my full energy to life, really, for those couple of years, if I'm being honest with myself. And then sort of the second year, so my apprenticeship, in short, was then extended for another year. So I completed my apprenticeship, great, kind of got a bit more direction, can start my career. Second year, I stayed there, and that was a mistake because I wasn't progressing in my career. So professionally, I was like stuck. And then to become unstuck, I felt gambling could be an escape. So I would then, like I said, with the M&S job, I was going into the toilets at work and spending an hour sometimes in the toilets, replying back to the occasional email, but just literally be putting on new bets, checking the accumulators, watching the tennis graphic. I don't know if you've ever watched it on Bet365 or any of these listeners have, but it's literally a bouncing ball, and then it goes serve in and it moves across. And it's like, it's the most mundane thing. And you wait for it to change to 15 love or 15 or whatever. And I'm literally like watching it like this, not even going to the toilet, just watching it. And that whole year was just me doing that, really, half a job, half the time gambling, and not feeling well in myself, leaving that job without any job lined up, which is quite a scary thing to do, but I didn't feel like it was helping me mentally. And I think that's very important, especially if you're struggling with gambling addiction, is if you haven't got a sound mind, then you're always going to struggle with the gambling addiction. And so I ended up going to a BP garage, doing nothing related to my other jobs, and actually enjoying it because it was away from the screen. A new challenge, if you will. I mean, it was working at a service station on like near Popham, doing nothing exciting, and it just gave me a bit of escape from sort of what the direction. I think I was just trying to try and spark something different in my brain. But the only problem is I stayed there for too long and ended up procrastinating, and then I was doing the same thing again, finding somewhere where no one was watching, getting my phone out when you weren't allowed your phone out when you were working. So I have to quickly go to the toilet, or okay, hold on, I'll do a delivery. I'll go outside. Okay, quickly. Right, where's my phone? Okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
Has anyone got a charger? It's dying really quickly. Like these sort of like, what are you doing, Lewis? You look back and you go, what are you doing? What were you thinking? And that getting worse and worse, feeling stressed about a job that you shouldn't feel stressed about. I'm sorry, no offense to anyone that works at those places, but it's very hard to become stressed if you're not stressed about something else. And I was getting very anxious, very, late starts, shift work, working 10 till 6 in the evening. So a night shift, sometimes it's quiet, you get your phone out. It was messing with my head. So then swiftly moving on, got onto a new job, and it was working for a paint company called PSG. They're not the football club.
Yeah.
They're called Paint Services Group. Again, I treated it as a fresh start. And then within a few months, I got into my first sort of serious relationship through the powers of internet dating. And I was the happiest I've been for a long, long time. Not just from that, but just from it was having another cheerleader about my work and propping myself up. Because what I hadn't realised is my self-confidence had been shot from the fact that I wasn't going out because I didn't have any money, because I wasn't socialising, because I wasn't taking on recognition, because it was all, the last job wasn't related. I was just so defeatist about everything that I was doing, that having this person come into your life and basically becomes your number one fan is this welcome relief, or it was. But I was very honest with her to start with, and I said, I'm struggling with a gambling addiction. Can you help? Be there for me? And I said, it's totally fine if you don't want to be here. I can understand it can be quite a burden for someone, to take on all of this. This, like everything I'm talking to you now, it's quite a lot to take on to and ask of someone to be like, it's fine to support them with little things, but this is quite a big thing to take on. And I mentioned about depression and anxiety, and the fact that I was having counselling at the time. And she was fine with it. And that sort of progressed, the relationship carried on. And then I moved into, I found a new position, the one I'm in right now. And I was starting to doubt myself a lot more, and I was coming into a new role. And I was thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? I kind of felt like an imposter syndrome at the time. And again, I'm still gambling. It's important to press on anyone at this time. It's not like I've just lost that ability to gamble. It was always there, and I was always just doing it. It was always, if you look through my statements throughout those years, it's always just little gradual, not gradual, big chunks, just coming out every month, taking away abilities to go on holidays, to save for a house, to move out, to whatever. So that's always playing in the back of my mind at this scenario. I'm starting a new job, and immediately I've got this bad feeling that I don't like it. Oh my God, I can't do this. I feel scary. I want to go back to my old job. And then, because of how negative I'd gotten with myself, that had started to in her words, reduce her happiness with me. And she didn't feel as happy anymore in herself. So she decided that she wanted to split. And naturally, like anyone that's ever been in a relationship that's ended, it can be the one thing that makes you doubt yourself tremendously. It makes you think you are worthless. What are you bringing to the table? You're zapping everyone of you're devouring them of any happiness. And that mixed with a gambling addiction that was still going on. The fact that I just started a new job I was nervous about. The fact that I'd lost the cheerleader, if you will, was a massive, the worst cocktail that could have ever been produced. Had very, very deep, dark thoughts that I won't go into too much because that's as far as it went, but very dark into where I felt like I didn't want to continue living that life. And I think it's important to press that it was that life that I didn't enjoy. And that was in March of last year. And therefore, from that point on, it was important for me to try and get a hold of it. So I started being more open with my parents, started opening up to other friends, and trying to put different measures in place. Gam stop, for one, very important. put in place. So it stopped me from doing the online for certain companies. It's important to impress again, certain companies I couldn't gamble with. And then I started to get myself into better shape, started to feel better physically, mentally, get more engrossed in your work, continue to sort of socialize more, with new people. I was quite important to try and do that because I realized how small my circle was at the time. So when my sort of number one cheerleader left, it was like, who do I have to sort of wrap me up in cotton wool and then sort of say it's going to be fine and we're here for you. And yeah, so it kind of went on and on and on. And then I wish I could remember what triggered me to round November, December time of last year, what really possessed me to start gambling again. But just one night, I think it was, trying to go onto different accounts, realizing I couldn't because I'd been suspended because of GamStop. So GamStop worked in that way. And then realizing, well, why don't I just go to a shop? And I'd never really been to a gambling shop. And there it started. I had a coral that's literally 5 minutes away. And luckily there's a Tesco there. So like you said, when you went to Reading, it's a cover story. It was like, I'm going to Tesco to get some food.
Yeah.
Okay, why are you gone for 2 hours? Oh, I managed to catch a friend. I saw a friend in the shop.
Yeah.
So you're lying to yourself, you're lying to someone else because you're just trying to cover up that you've been in a coral for 2 hours. And the reason you're in there for 2 hours is because I put on a bet. So the only money I'd have would be like a tenner. And I'm putting it on and I'm thinking, okay, I need to see if this comes in, because if it wins, I get 30 quid. And if it gets 30 quid, then I've got, there's another match coming on in an hour. Can this one finish in an hour and be settled? So I'm actually in there, got my phone on, right, watching that bouncy ball again on the Bet365, boring, not even the match. I'm not even watching the actual match itself because it's not even live streamed. It's some random tournament. And so it comes in, okay, 30 quid. Go and do it. Put on a 30 quid. Okay, it loses. Oh God, I've been away from home for an hour and a half. They must think, where am I? And I'd stick on another one, but then I'd pick one that's quite obscure, and I knew it'd lose in half an hour or win in half an hour, one or the other. Lose that. God, I can't be gone anymore. Come back home. Have to wait and store that up in my brain for a whole next day till I could finish work and go and travel back down to Coral and do the whole thing again. And this went on and on and on. And like now, our time recording, and probably when it gets released, it gets dark early. And I'd be coming back from Farnham, my current job, and I'd be driving here, and I'll get home after traffic probably about 6:30 on a good day. So I knew in a way that I could stay out for like another hour and pretend it was traffic. So I'd end up going to that Coral on an empty stomach, because I wouldn't have eaten till like from 12 o'clock in the dark. And I'd get to like 8 o'clock and I would have lost. I would have gone back out. There was a little cash machine on the right hand side. I can remember it. Come out, go back in, come out, come back. Right. Because I wanted it to show on the statement as money coming out like a cash machine. Because at the time, and something I haven't mentioned that's just come to my brain now, is that one time I came up to my parents about it. They said, what about us looking at the account at the same time as you so we can check when you're doing it? So now I was thinking logically, okay, if I go to a cash machine, it'll just show us 10, 10, 10 or 50, blah, 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 coming out. So I was thinking logically for an illogical thing. And I was getting to like 8 o'clock, probably losing it or sticking the bet on to watch overnight. And then not sleeping because I'm thinking about the bet coming through, or having a dream and thinking, oh, it did or it didn't come through. Oh my God, what am I going to do next? And then, yeah, and that was repeating for months up to lockdown. And it got to about end of Feb. And I remember checking my account and my overdraft was gone. And realizing that I needed to do like a different withdrawal. So I needed to go up to the counter and say, can you withdraw me £5 rather than a tenner? And they never question you, never went, you're right. And And all I can say is, in a way, thank you for lockdown.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, because I remember being in there the week before, and the staff member that I kind of got along with, because he was kind of similar age, sort of saying, "Oh God, is this lockdown? Are you guys going to be closed, do you reckon?" And I was panicking because I was thinking I can't gamble anymore. And then and then that closed, and then for a couple of weeks didn't gamble. I was just sorting out how am I going to work, how am I going to do things, how are everyone was adapting how they're going to do lockdown again.
Yeah.
And or how they were going to approach it. And I did need to speak to my parents about it, so a big admission time. But that only came after I was betting via a proxy.
Right.
Because I couldn't because I couldn't gamble with anyone. I decided I needed to do it via an online American account. And because there was no sports, it was like virtual people playing Madden, a simulation of Madden, and you were gambling on the result of the game or the line or the spread. And
sorry, really stupid question. What's Madden? I don't even know. Sorry, I'm showing my age probably.
Yeah, no, so that's an American football game.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So it's literally a virtual, like FIFA. It's like FIFA,
okay.
for American football.
Yeah.
And so you're gambling on this because there obviously no sports at the time. I think it was end of March. There was nothing. I don't think there was anything going on. And so this American kid, I think it was, had this account with an American bookmaker who then got affiliated to give out links or logins to people. And one of them he gave to me, and I logged in so I could be him, and he would do the withdrawals for me, and I could take money out.
How did you meet him, Lewis? How did you meet him?
Twitter.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, I was typing in like Madden simulations, and then someone come up, and I was like, okay. And I thought it was a scam at first, but then he paid out once, and I was like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah.
And it filled that hole again. It filled that hole. So I just found a way to do it, to keep doing it. And I will get to the end of this, because it was one day where I'd literally had my last 50 quid, and he was only accepting deposits of 50 quid or more. So I put the 50 quid in, put on my bets on this simulation. I go out for a walk, and I'm like, if I lose it, I have to speak to my parents. I have to. This is the final time. I might be kicked out. It got to a point where I felt like I could be kicked out at any point, because this would be like the fifth intervention, if you will. And it got to that day, and I remember walking around my local sort of area, seeing it lose, and just chucking my phone on the floor, walking around for a bit, picking it up afterwards, and then just sobbing uncontrollably. Not because I was going to go speak to them, my parents, not because I was like any other emotion, apart from the fact I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't win my money back anymore. It was like I couldn't do that thing that was giving me this fulfillment at that point in time. I couldn't do it anymore. So I remember taking the longest walk back, and then just basically sort of, I don't remember if I cried or not, but I just remember being really like just tired of feeling this way. And admitted everything again. And we sat down, we made a list, made sure I got sorted with GamStop counselling within 2 weeks. Started having that face-to-face virtual calls. Got introduced to that, what we mentioned earlier about the Now We Win with Ed, which was another thing that was so crucial. And just checking in with my parents, the value of just checking in every couple of weeks with them at that time was valuable. Adding a calendar of how many days you've been without it at the time was so powerful. That whole like getting to 30 days was massive. And really trying to dissect that, or trying to look at it. The best thing someone said to me was like, look at it now. You've done it when you're 24, when you had no dependents, no children, like you weren't like mortgaging for a house. Imagine if it had happened when you were 44. and you had your whole thing, you would be devastated. It could have got a lot worse. So recognizing it now was like this big thing. I still regret to this day everything that happened up to this point, and still think I deprived myself of certain life experiences. But at the same time, when you think 24, I almost take it like hopefully it's a end of me. Now nearly 7 months clean. It's like,
that's brilliant.
Hopefully it's you're kind of gone over those hurdles now, where I don't actually think about it every day. I think about it up to this interview, but I don't think about it like I need to get my phone out and download an app. I recently got a new phone. I didn't think I need to get a new app.
Yeah.
Because I know I've put those measures in place anyway, but I also don't feel the urge to fill any empty gaps, which I still experience. Still don't, those empty gaps, I think in anyone's life appears, but I don't feel like I need to fill them up with gambling, especially at this point.
No, it's brilliant to hear. Absolutely brilliant to hear. Wow, what a story. What a story.
Yeah, I need a glass of water after that.
Yeah, no, what a story. I just think it's incredible. It's one of a lot of harm, a lot of gambling harm, a lot of which I can relate to, like I've mentioned throughout. So what does the future? Let's think about the future. So yeah, what does the future look like for you? What's your mindset going into 25 and the rest of your 20s and beyond?
Yeah, I try not to think too far ahead, but when I think about it, I do think of gaining independence. Because of what I've done with gambling, it's hindered my independence, like my ability to move out. I mean, I could have moved out multiple times, but that's hindered me. So one of my big goals is to move out. And I know renting's worse than buying, but at some point it's good for me mentally, just to be able to get out and think, you know what, I can actually just start to, just to get myself out of there.
100%.
And give my parents a break, obviously. And then kind of continuing to be gamble free. I think any of us, especially in our group, we all want to aspire to keep doing it. And I think I don't look at it now at the 30 days. I think of it now in months, because I feel like the next 6 months. Can I get to the next 6 months? Yes, I can, because I've done it for the last 6 months, and they're naturally the hardest. And just, I don't know, trying to be more out there. I mean, it's difficult with COVID. Yeah. It's very difficult to kind of think, to be more social, because it's hard not to think you want to catch up on all of those things, to go to bars more, to go and say yes to everyone that says, do you want to come out? To say, do you want to, take up their sport? Do you want to go to the gym? Being more of a yes man.
Yeah.
Because for so long, I kind of wasn't saying yes or no. I was actually just saying gambling back to them. It was almost like it was decoded as no, but it was me just saying no, I'm gambling, but I was saying no. So for the last 6 years, that's all I've done, and it's like, well, can I get the next 6 years and make the absolute most of it? So when I get to my 30s, I go, you know what? I still spent a lot of it doing things that I enjoy, that were healthy for my mind and my body.
Yeah.
I did those things for a few times, but hey ho, I learned a lot from them. I wouldn't have come on this podcast without them. I wouldn't have spoke to you guys on the Now We Win. You spin it that way and you go, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm in that attitude, and I'm still very structured. I still need to have that structure, but I'm in a much better place than I would have been if you'd spoken to me when I was 19.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always a positive.
Absolutely brilliant. So I honestly, I probably say this all the time, but I mean, I certainly, maybe it's because geographically, because we're not too far away. Because were you? I was originally Newbury, and you're Basingstoke, is it way?
That's right. Yeah,
always, that way. And
always Basingstoke. Yeah.
Now I'm down in Portsmouth, but I don't know if it's just because of geography, or maybe the fact that I'm called Alex Lewis and you're called Lewis. I don't know what it is, but I just I feel like I could speak to you for a long time, and there's just so much I can relate to.
The crazy thing is you're cutting corners even when I'm describing my story. Do you know what I mean? I'm actually
Yeah.
kind of sort of streamlining it, because even with me, I still, even after these years of saying it's different cancers, I still can't condense it down to
No.
something like like an hour.
No.
Do you know what
No.
I mean?
No.
It's like there's still things that I go, actually, this happened and that happened. But what are the major? It's crazy that it's
Yeah.
still, because it's such a rooted issue, or was a rooted issue for 6 years. You
Mm.
can't naturally, you just spend so long, don't we, just talking about these things, and they just end up going off different strands, and we think, okay,
Yeah.
where's that lead, and how did that make you feel, and what do you do now about it? And it's very interesting, though. I must admit, hearing different people's experiences is always brilliant, because it makes you feel like you're not alone, and you can, what worked for them, maybe you can adopt some of those methods. So
Yeah.
it's it's crazy. It's crazy.
No, it's been, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I mean, it's early doors for me to say, but in the future, would you ever want to come back on and maybe speak again, or to do, because like you just said, for me, there's always stuff that comes out. I've done a podcast about my addiction story, and I'm doing some vlogs at the moment as well. And there's just all these new little tidbits that come out, like you've mentioned. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't say that, or didn't say that, but yeah. Would you come on again and speak again in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, just to sort of end, I think now it's like the mental side of me has become more stronger. So it's, if it was to speak again, I think it's more about how you keep that mental fortitude up to combat the gambling from coming back into your life. Whereas before, I was letting it control me. And I think that's what the story, I hope, has come across for people listening, from from that year of 16 to sort of 23. I mean, it's such a long time, but it was always the gambling kind of controlling how I was feeling, majority of it anyway. And I think if I speak to you guys again, which I'm happy to, it will be more of how I'm doing mentally. So then when it ever does crop up, if there's a flashpoint or a thing that happens that you think, okay, oh God, I feel tempted to, or I need to because I'm feeling furious. It's like you have those techniques in place, and if I find those, I'm more happy to share, because I want more and more people to kind of realize just how there is so much help out there to get rid of this gambling addiction that they've got, even if they've just started on their journey or years ahead. There are so many different ways to get rid of it, or at least reduce the level.
Yeah. And are they the sort of the mechanisms that you've described, like such as GamStop and counselling and that kind of thing? And yeah,
because there's not one thing, because I can attest, when I did GamStop a couple of years ago, I thought that was the end of it. I thought that would be the thing that would get me off it and completely solve my problems, because you'd look at it and you go, GamStop, okay, stop gambling, cool, done. But actually, no, that wasn't, because I went back to it for the next year or so, or year and a half, I guess, and then continued to do it because I found another way around to it, because shops were allowing it, and shops didn't GamStop. So, I didn't put anything in place with shops, but lockdown helped me in that way. So you could almost say lockdown was part of my arsenal, and then the Now We Win, and then the GamStop counselling, and then talking to friends and family about it, talking to you, being open to it, and being like, do you know what? It did happen, but it's not happening now. I'm with you now. I'm present in my company. I'm not on my phone when I'm at the pub with you. I'm talking to you about my problems. It's like this. It's just being upfront with it. I think the biggest thing, the moment you can admit that you've got the issue with someone that you trust, it has to be someone you trust. But once you can do it, it's such a weight off your shoulders, as I'm sure you can attest to.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to mention at all before we kind of we wrap things up, Lewis? Is there anything that you want to add in, or something that's popped up?
No, I just sort of, I think I've kind of said a lot of it, really. I think it's something that's, plagued me since I was 16, and it was quite rare circumstances.
Yeah.
So obviously this story might not resonate with like everyone, but it just goes to show how easily it can kind of grow within you, and kind of this addiction can kind of just spring up on you, and you find it as as a way to cope with loss, with depression, with anxiety, with, I just learned that I felt at one point it's a fixed meal sort of solution. And I'm just want to let people know that it's not, that there are other ways that you can find happiness and a direction in your life, and it doesn't need to be this addiction. You deal with the other things like depression, anxiety, and you naturally will become less prone to do gambling addiction. Well, that's how it worked for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, just talk, keep talking. If anyone's listening, keep talking about it. Put the measures in place. Give yourself every opportunity to get rid.
Fantastic. Yeah. A couple of tears here. That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
No, thank you, and thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for, as I say, I apologise if I interrupted it, your train of thought at times, and I hope I've not spoken too much. And if your friends and family are listening, I hope I hope you don't think too less of me, as it were. But look, it's been an absolute pleasure, Lewis, and take care of yourself. And
you too, and keep up the good work, because it needs to keep the conversation going. So you're doing a brilliant job.
Oh no, thank you very much. No, thank you. That means a lot. And perhaps I'll see you at I'll see you. I'm on holiday at the Isle of Wight next week, but
okay, that's a valid excuse, I guess.
I was going to say I'm not going to be at Now We Win next week, but I'll be there the week after. So
brilliant. Right, we'll catch up then.
I'll see you soon. I'd just like to go on record and say a massive thank you once again to Lewis for giving up his time and telling his story publicly. It takes a huge amount of bravery to do so. He's got a fascinating story, one that is so unique yet so relatable. And one thing I could really resonate with is the paradox of using gambling as a way to escape your problems. At the height of a gambling addiction, you block out the debt, the lies, and the depression to kid yourself that gambling is the answer, when in actual fact, the opposite is true. It's fantastic to hear that Lewis is free from gambling and able to now move on with his life. So I'd like to continue the conversation by speaking to another young man who's battled a gambling addiction. So we're going to find out in the next episode when I speak to the founder of Gam Talk, Paul Pettigrew.